Welcome to episode 93.5 of the Coast to Coast AFL podcast from Nick and Blaze. I am Blaze, your host, and in this one we are talking about the Richmond Tigers. It is finally time to talk about my boys. There has been a lot of highs and a lot of lows in the 2025 season. The highs starting very early with the incredible win against Carlton and the miraculous win against the Gold Coast Suns. And then obviously, quelled by injuries. Still a very young team and just a bunch of the other teams around us getting better and better. But we're going to talk about all of it. So, without further ado, how are you doing, Mr. Syric?
Not too bad, not too bad. And yeah, as I said, we started off this batch of recording. We recording 2 episodes to get ahead of schedule with our favorite teams. And yeah, I sort of had the pain after a successful, probably too successful 2024. Um, I was very happy to do the port preview, less so this year. So I sort of know how Blazy felt last year.
Yep.
So we'll try and bring some positivity to the Richmond Football Club because I do think that there's some good things to talk about. Yeah, they're just been pretty luckless
I
these
think
last few years.
I think now that we've seen what the batch of 2024 recruits bar Josh Smiley can do, I think we have a better idea as to what kind of hopes people have going into 2026. That's kind of my
Yeah.
big thing at the moment. Obviously, I haven't seen too much of the players we've recruited in the draft just gone, apart from Sam Grill because he played a couple games with our VFL team. Um, but yeah, like I think 2026 has a lot more hopes than 2025 did at the moment.
Yeah, and honestly, I tried to make a bit of an optimistic one instead of just doing another Richmond are sad and injured. So hopefully the baby cubs will be lifted up into the sun to I mean, look, as I said, I was thinking who'd put there. I was almost going to put Dustin Martin, but I think Richo is still the
I Richo is
face
still
of modern Richmond
he's
in
still the
my
prodigal
mind.
son that never got the
Yeah.
dream that he wanted.
Exactly, exactly. So let's see where I would, and also I put Tim Taranto as I'm assuming that's what Simba
I
or whatever Simba's dad's called.
I think that yeah,
No,
I
actually,
don't
that would
actually
be
know.
Daddy Simba.
Yes, yeah, it would be.
Let's call him
I cannot remember the name for the life of me.
Zimbo. Tim
Sure,
Taranto is Zimbo the
we're
lion.
gonna have a lot of Lion
Um,
King fans angry at us in the comments.
yeah, if all of the Disney football overlap will be raking us in the comments. So let's get to 2025. And man, it was a really, really good start and not much else for a little while.
Yep.
That Blues win was an absolutely fantastic win. Um, in fact, the first two wins, the Blues and the Suns being half of their wins is just like pretty staggering
And
when you consider what they had to work with.
out of all of the wins that we got, and they're probably the two that no one expected us to get either, because everyone, well, it's just the minimal side tangent. Almost everyone expected us to go to complete this season with 0 wins. Even I, as
Yeah,
much as
I
I
didn't
didn't
think
want
that.
to, said that we were probably going to go
Yeah,
in with 0 wins, maybe one. Like we'd probably get one out against the Eagles,
I
which we
thought
did.
too. I think I'm on record of saying too, which is still half of what they got. So,
Yes. So like
um,
coming out right off the bat and getting a win against Carlton, especially when the final score was done with it like within the last 70 seconds of the game. The Seth
mm,
Campbell backflip. It's now in Richmond history. The
yeah,
the win against the Suns, we just squeaked out because we started running out of legs in the fourth quarter. But I remember going to that game and like the fact that we got a win there was like especially against Dimmer and his quoted trend of not liking Marvel Stadium. Um, that was always that's just a fun thing. But yeah, like getting the win against the Eagles, the semi expected, but we weren't expecting it to be that close, I guess. And then the one way down the bottom against the Bombers, and then that
the
was an
sad
absolute
goal.
slog of a game. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Um, and then the
Uh,
secondary win against the Eagles out west, which was much better game than the first time round.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as I said, it was disappointing to see that there was such a lack of momentum with players coming in and out. But as you said, during last season, all of these games, much like 2024, were actually pretty close for at least three quarters. It's just inefficient offense converted to some pretty open defensive entries.
Yes.
And it was just sort of like the floodgates opening near the end. So we'll have a look at the overview of 2025. And like, yeah, like there's a lot of red on this. But I will say, like, compared to last year, especially, this isn't actually too bad. Um, we will, however, start with the offense, which I'll just rattle through because I don't think it takes a genius to tell you that Richmond's offense was just bad.
No.
They didn't have many players on the park. They had no key targets for most of the year. And it ended up going at 8.9 goals per game, which was the worst. With 20.2 shots per game, which was the worst. With an inside 50 total supply of 44.2, which is the worst. So not much supply, not much conversion. Accuracy 44, which is 17th. Change of score 17.7, which is 16th in the league. Goals per inside 50, 21.1, which is 17th in the league. Score per inside 50, 42.2, which is 15th in the league. Inside 50 retention rate, 42.3, 17th in the league. Marks per inside 50, 9.3, 18th in the league. Mark inside 50 rate is actually a tiny bit better at 21 with its 15th in the league. Offensive one-on-one win rate is surprisingly good. They are 28.3% to win one of those, which is 8th in the league. They just didn't have too many. 9.8 per game, which is 16th in the league. Tackles inside 50, 7.7, which is 18th in the league. Inside 50 ground ball gets 10.3, 18th in the league. They just had no ground ball presence. And the opposition rebound rate, 78.3, which is 78.5, which is the 16th worst in the league, which means that oppositions found it easy to rebound the Richmond inside 50.
Yeah, we had basically no one that we needed up forward. We had to throw Bolter back up forward after desperately needing him in defense, because we basically had had no Tom Lynch for like half the season. We had no LaFell because he did ACL. Um, we threw a bunch of the younger players up forward who had forwards experience, like Jacob Bauer, but just was not as effective as we needed him to be. We had some players like Thompson Dow, who is more of a midfielder than a forward. I think he had fantastic time in the midfield, but when we had to kind of shuffle him up forward, also no effect. Seth Campbell went missing for a lot of it because he's a smaller forward and just couldn't get hands on the ball. Um, Steely Green, I think, still had a decent season. But again, another small forward just couldn't get hands on the ball because we had no major targets being able to bring it to ground. So yeah, just overall, there was just nothing in the forward line that could really capitalize on what our midfield was capable of.
Yeah, and as I said, Seth Campbell 31 shots for the year, Ryan Mansell 20 general play shots for the year. That was pretty much it. And some players, normally a team has 50 general play shots from one player in their forward line. So yeah, it was more just a amount of things. So Richmond were basically looking to get set shots, and with their forward line, it was very hard to generate them.
Yes.
So you can see where it wasn't working, but like again, it's very hard to get that system with the amount of players that they had there.
I will say that for a first year go around, Jonty Fall and Tom Sims, I thought they did very well for their first year, considering they're tall players. Again, they take a couple years to develop. Like for what they were capable, for what they were able to achieve, I think was very solid. But yeah, they just need that extra time, that extra experience, grow into their bodies a bit more, which hopefully we'll see a little bit more of in this upcoming season.
Yeah. We'll go to the defense, which I don't think was actually as bad as the stats tell. But as I said, we just saw floodgates open with Richmond, and that will tank your stats after a while. So there's no surprise that opposition goals were still 13.8, which is 15th in the league. Opposition score to chain 24.1, which is 16th in the league. Opposition goals per inside 50 was a bit better, 24.8, which is 13th in the league. Opposition marks inside 50, they sort of struggled to contain, 14.4, which is tied 16th in the league. Opposition marks inside 50 rate, tied 14th in the league. So a tiny bit better, but still on the lower end of the spectrum. A lot of spoils. They did well covering each other most of the time. 30.4 per game, which is ninth in the league. Defensive one-on-one loss rate, 28, 12th in the league. And they had to defend 12.4 one-on-ones per game, second in the league. So all things considering, it's not terrible, but it's not really good either. Opposition forward 50 for ground ball gets. They allowed 15.7, which is 15th in the league. And the opposition I-50 retention rate was only 46.8, which is 8th in the league. So Richmond did put resistance up. I think that's sort of the overview I want to bring up from those limited stats. But yeah, in the scheme of things, everything else just made it an uphill battle.
Well, to the credit of the good stats in the defensive lineup, we can give a lot of that credit to Bolter, Broad, and Vlosten, because
Yeah.
they were the veterans that did a lot of the hard work in that sort of area. That's mostly what they specialize in. Again, Vlosten is very, very good at intercepts. Brody is very, very good at one-on-ones and spoiling. So just being able to have, and then Bolter's an all-around, all-around utility. So being able to, and it has very clean hands as well. So that was all very, very helpful.
And I think Ben Miller also coming into his own
Yes,
a bit more this season.
absolutely. Thank you. Ben Miller had a fantastic season. I completely forgot about him. Because he's become so underrated because he was never had this kind of consistency. But I love what he did in this season as well. He's really stepped up with Dylan Grimes retiring a couple of years ago. He's filled in Grimes' role very, very well. I know Gibcus was kind of meant to be the one to kind of do that, but he's going to take the quote unquote Alex Rance kind of role that Rance had back in the last decade. So we're very much looking forward to seeing how this defense will reshape in this season.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing there, it's more so, it's sort of weird. There's a lot of similarities for better or for worse to Port Adelaide, where they're probably actually looking at the players exiting the ball from their D50 more than their key defenders themselves. Because again, Jaden Short probably didn't have the year he would have liked to have, and there were some very pressure dumped kicks by a lot of the youngsters trying to get out of that defense. So we're looking for a few of those young defenders growing up a bit and getting a bit more composure there. But otherwise, probably the most consistent performing line, I would say.
Yeah, I've got two of those young defenders kind of listed in my important players, being Tom Brown and Sam Banks. But we can also talk about players like James Trezise, and even Hugo, even though Hugo also plays on the wing, to kind of talk about those sort of halfback kind of movement roles, transition roles.
Yeah. Finally, we'll start on the movement stats or the midfield stats or whatever you want to say. And this is where it really struggled because while Richmond do have a couple of really good supporting players in that midfield, they don't really have anyone stand out as a big ball winner that they can really work around. Their possession time is 39% of the game, which is 17th in the league. Disposal differential 51 loss, which is 17th in the league. Meters gain differential 531.9 loss, 17th in the league, which is surprisingly low for other historical meters lost in other years. So at least teams are finding meterage, and it's sort of shown with their meters per disposals and meters per kick. Meters per disposal 16.4, which is 10th in the league. Meters per kick is 27.5, which is 4th. Oh, sorry. Meters per disposal was 10th in the league. Meters per kick was 4th in the league. But again, that's sort of that double-edged sword where those meters per kick, it's good in some areas, but as you know, a lot of those were dump kicks.
Yeah.
And resulting in a few too many turnovers. And at the end of the day, any of those meterage didn't matter because the inside 50 differential was abysmal. 11.5, which is 18th in the league. You just don't win too many games with that amount of inside 50s conceded. Disposal retention, 68.9, which is 14th in the league. Clearest differential, 4.6 loss, which is 17th in the league. Mark differential, 17.6 loss, which is 17th in the league. Ground ball get differential, 4.9 loss, 15th in the league. Tackle differential, which is a 10.3 loss, which is 18th in the league and probably one of the more concerning stats.
Oh yeah.
Intercept possession differential, 3.5, tied 17th in the league. Opposition D50 to forward 50, movement wise, is 27.5%, 16th in the league. Opposition's D half to forward 50 movement percentage is 38%, which is 18th in the league. And I don't know why I particularly put it, but bounce differential was a 4.9 loss, 18th in the league.
That
And I
one,
think I'd put it there.
that one's just rubbing salt into the wound.
Honestly, I think I put it there because it was surprisingly like everything else was like pretty much not that much above ±1. And then it was just like Richmond, far less. So it does say that Richmond probably didn't find as much time and space. Yeah, so it was over just under double the next worst, which was Brisbane. But again, I didn't really put that in Brisbane or Adelaide stats. And those two teams did well. So I don't think that this stat really means that
It doesn't
much.
mean anything. It's literally just a salt in the wound kind of stat.
But, as I said, it does say that maybe Richmond just didn't have enough carry. But they liked handball chains. I think that's actually probably a better side of their games. They actually did work the ball by hand fairly well. It's just a lot of the times it led to a kick that just fell flat, really. So,
Yeah.
yeah, as I said, overall, though, like, unfortunately, and it came with a lot of the movement. Yeah, they were just a bit too young. Tim Taranto had I actually think he had a great season. We saw Dion Prestia come in and make a bit of an impact, but they were really struggling to find that middle of the road player. Where, as I said, they were hoping it was Thompson Dow. Didn't quite pan out that way. He did a few good things in the midfield, but I think he even got delisted.
He did indeed get delisted. Which
After the
I'm
end
a
of this
little sad about because I thought he did have a
Yeah.
big improvement, but it just wasn't enough. However, I think we have a lot of players coming up that do fill in the role, do fill in that midfield really well. It's just about time, cohesion,
Yeah.
proper development, that sort of stuff. Like, your
Yeah,
Ryan Mansells,
exactly.
your Jack Rosses, players like that.
Mm. Yeah, so it's not all doom and gloom, but yeah, as I said, Richmond, they have improved from like the injury riddled chasm that was 2024.
Yes.
And with adversity, they've still managed to get improvement. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. But it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, it'll take another couple of years before we even have a chance of potentially
Mm.
playing finals. But I think we're on the right trajectory at the moment. So
Yeah, exactly.
that does bring us down to our list changes. And starting with the outs, we do sadly lose Tyler Young, a big body defender who I really, really liked watching, out to West Coast. I believe he is a WA boy, so he's pretty much
Yeah,
heading
want to go
home.
home.
And then on the delisting side of things, big Camden McIntosh. We love Macca very, very much. He did eventually retire just because he didn't end up finding another team. But then we also delisted Jacob Bauer, Jacob Blight, mate Kalina, who is Noah Bolter's cousin. From the top of my head, never got onto the park because due to constant back issues from playing basketball. Thompson Dow, as we had just mentioned, and failed trade prospect Jacob Kazitsky.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately, I wanted a Kaczynski to be really good.
Yeah, so did
I
I.
actually sort of had a soft spot for Justin. But yeah, as I said, Jacob just is a very awkward forward. He just, yeah, as I said, for a player that had the chance to prove himself, just couldn't really find anything. So yeah, moved on fairly quickly.
Yes.
But yeah, as I said, uh, apart from that, it's just I wouldn't call it like fat you need to cut, but and honestly, there are some harsher choices, but I think it's good that they're sort of backing in some of their player development. They're like, okay, we don't have to feel the need to hold on to players too long because we will have others to cover their spots.
Yeah, I think Mako was kind of just part of this new transition of going into like a
Mm.
new era of Richmond, which, part of it is sad because he's such a favorite player to a lot of the supporters. But it's
Mm.
just the nature of the business, sadly. And then like Bauer, Blight, and Dow were just players who Whilst had good moments, just weren't
Mm.
exactly where to the level that the club needed them to be. Apparently, Jacob Blight also had like attitude issues. Remains to be seen if that's actually confirmed, but apparently that's part of the reason why he never got that last game to get the contract extension because he was a mid-season pickup. Um, but over on the inside of things, we get some very exciting players coming through. Patrick Rechko, we acquired from Geelong for pick 99. You know, the greatest pick in the history of man.
Mm.
And then on the
Uh,
draft list, we've got Sam Cumming at pick 7, Sam Grell at pick 8. Again, I've seen a little bit of Grill play because he played for our VFL team briefly. Zane Puka at pick 31 and Noah Roberts Thompson at pick 54.
do we ever find out if he's Lewis Robert Thompson's cousin? I
Uh,
think we did.
I can't remember. Maybe
Anyway,
we did.
I
I
still
can't.
believe it. It's got the Robert Thompson name. But Patrick Reshko, there's a lot of hype that he'll just slot straight into the squad. I don't know much about him. I do know he's a fast player. Um, I think I actually talked about him because I did have to look him up to put a little spiel about him in the new faces. But yeah, as I said, if he is a fast player on the outside, I think he'll be very handy. Because, as I said, Ralph Smith sort of cemented himself in that role.
Yes.
But the other half of the ring is a bit up in the air.
Yeah, I think it's normally like a player. I think it might be a Taj Houghton kind of position
Mm,
or a Steely Green kind of position, depending on who rotates in there. But I think Rechko will probably end up slotting in because he's got the bigger body. He's got the speed. Well, at least from what we've seen from his VFL footage, because he has
yeah.
really struggled to break into the Geelong side for obvious reasons. Um, but we'll talk more about that in the new faces segment. But let's jump over now to our players of importance. And I start off with the three that I kind of mentioned earlier, and I'll start with Sam Banks. Had a breakout 2025 as a rebound defender as Jaden Short. Was out with a mix of injury and poor form. Banks has been developing into a mainstay in defense. His meterage is fantastic, and his movement by hand is clean. Just needs a little bit of work on tackling. Again, that's kind of an entire team issue, as we just covered.
Yeah.
But also, he does need a little bit of cleanup by foot as well. But otherwise, I think he's become a fantastic player. And him and Tom Brown, which I'll touch on in a second, are two players that I'm really, really looking forward to watching the most this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I think you sort of touched on it. I think there will be, and I know we're talking about individuals, but I will bring it back to team scheme. I think there might be like an overall lift with Richmond because again, we've seen them fade out in third quarters, and you're just thinking like, because they put some okay pressure, like on their best day, they are actually a pressure-ish team. They just sort of fall away after a few quarters. So hopefully in their more consistent ages, when players like Sam, well, probably let's say Sam Banks, I think it's a bit older, isn't he? He's like 26, 27.
No, he's still quite
Uh,
young. They're all quite young. I'm pretty sure Banksy's
am I
only
thinking?
22, 23. I think they both are.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the other one, aren't I? Um, anyway, I'll think of it later. But yeah. So yeah, hopefully they will find a bit of evenness. Sorry, I was thinking Miller, not Brown.
Yeah, Miller's on the prime, quote unquote prime age for a
Right.
footballer.
So yeah.
Um,
So yeah.
So I'll jump over now to Tom Brown. Basically, kind of the same thing. Very solid mainstay for defense now. His work rate in packs and transition was one of the best for the team in 2025. Has a lethal kick and his pressure rating is fantastic, but again, needs to tidy up by hand. His one-on-one defenses probably needs a bit of work as well. And obviously, tackling. kind of, again,
Yeah.
kind of a big trend. But yeah, these two, definitely very happy with watching them in 2025 and looking forward to 2026 for them. There's a fair chance that like one of them will be this one. One will be the kind of mainstay, and then one will be the one kind of rotating on the bench, because they both play very similar roles, at least in terms of like positions on the ground. Especially when you got to try and also fit in Jaden Short, and as well as like the other 4/5 defenders we have down there in like, your
Yeah.
Lostons, your Broads, your Millers, your Gibgisses, your Bolters. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we rotate through that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just actually checked for you. Tom Brown has a defensive one-on-one loss rate of 42.9%. So yeah, as I said, I think that will just come with a bit of bulking up at the gym,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. He only has 0.9 per game, so it's just like you got a 50-50 chance of him losing his one contest um in a game basically.
Yeah, it's just
It's
it's just
not
that
that big a
that
deal.
little bit of sort of cleanup. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
doesn't take too much. And then for my last player, I picked will be his second year going into 2026. Tash Houghton, extremely creative by foot, clean by hand. He got a bit of the spotlight in the tail end of 2025 when he finally was able to come in after overcoming an ACL that he did prior to being drafted. And he's definitely going to provide a lot of lethality into the midfield, similar to what Bolton used to be able to do during the Premiership era for Richmond, which is, as we kind of talked about with the Freo episode, not so much what he's bringing at the moment for Freo.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just a touch on. It's interesting. Because I've actually been using the AFL website, who've like made a best 23 in 2026, and they don't name him at all.
I'm very
Uh,
shocked that
even
they
as an
don't.
emergency, in their predicted best
I mean, to
22,
be
and I'm
fair, we've
like,
got a lot of young players that still have a few question marks. So, like, I get it,
yeah,
but
but like,
it's really hard to not mention him.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think he really. I would have thought he got over someone like Harry Armstrong in his like debut year or anything like. Well, actually, who is Harry Armstrong?
He was drafted in the same in 2024 alongside Houghton, um,
Oh yeah.
and the other boys. He had a very, very, very good first couple of games. Kind of fell away briefly. I think he had a minor injury, and then just kind of
Mm,
struggled to break back in because Jonty Fall and Tom Sims were mostly had come in at
mm,
that point. But yeah, no, it'll be very, very interesting to see how they kind of rotate everything going forward.
yeah. Yeah, not that I was using it as gospel, but it's more like, just in and around the park. But yeah, so yeah, just with you being a fan, I was like, oh, that's like a bit interesting that Taj isn't in. Because yeah, I'm a bit excited to see him
I mean,
what he can
I
do
think
in
everyone just wants
2026.
to see more Lawler, which I don't blame them. Like Lawler is,
Yeah, true.
from what we've seen so far, he's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah. Anyway, going now to Jack Ross, who I sort of said is like an outside mid link up forward. Like he plays inside as well, like, but he's very much he's sort of that generalist mid, you would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I'd say so.
Um and honestly, like with next to no forward line to work with, Jack Ross actually had a fantastic year of getting involved in Richmond scoring chains. Sometimes his inside 50 kicks could use a bit of work and he could have a better retention rate. But he just provides a little bit of everything in terms of marking, tackling, and okay stoppage work. And I think that's really, like, he's really boosted his game to where he's never really a player that you're worried about. And occasionally he'll have a pretty good output game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's kind of become one of those grunt players, which you
Mm.
kind of see, I guess, in the Premiership era with like a Kane Lambert kind of player. Um,
Yeah.
so he fits that mold very, very well. It's just about um, one obviously staying healthy. He hasn't had any major injuries from what I can remember. So he's been able to keep his body very healthy, which is good. But if he's able to kind of just like clean up a bit of his like pressure game, his tackling game, the sort of generalized stuff that the team needs to work on. Um, he's
Yeah, as I said,
fantastic.
I think it's also like maybe it's a bit him, maybe it's a bit the system. But yeah, as I said, I think as Richmond improve, Jack Ross stats actually become uh probably not elite, but you put him into the very handy list of players. And then finally, I've put down Josh Kipkis as a key defender. Obviously, it's funny we're talking so much about defense when we've already sung praises of it, but I think that's just saying where Richmond's done some very nice recruiting. But unfortunately, he's a bit forever luckless after a great debut
Yep,
season.
two
But he will
ACLs.
have this. Yeah, he is running this preseason, or at least I've read he
He
is.
is.
And should.
He's as from what I am aware of, he is full training. Like he has been doing full training
Yeah,
with the team. But I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be playing round one.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's as I said, even though Sam Banks and Tom Brown's like, I think they're a tiny bit smaller, aren't
They
they?
are. They're smaller defenders.
Gibcus will provide a bit of height in that back line, sort of give those old heads a hand in terms of like Foster. Vostone and Bolter.
Yes,
I guess that's like Volster is them together.
it is them
So
together.
I was right.
That's their ship name. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Young and Gibcus kind of have very similar body sizes. Gibcus will again just slot back into that kind of slot straight away, which is pretty good, thankfully. Again, he had a fantastic 2024 before he did his ACL the first time. 2024, 2023, one of the two. I can't remember which. But yeah, the ACL the first time wasn't great. Then he did it the second time, not great. We did get to see a little bit of him in round 24, which was good, but they only played him for half a game because they didn't want to risk it. But now that he has a full preseason under his belt, he should hopefully be in for round one, and we'll be able to kind of show off a little bit more about what he can do.
Yeah, exactly. And look, as I said, with the double ACL, there is a fair chance that he might not have an impact on an AFL football field. But he's definitely a player that I think on the positive side of things, like if he does recover, goes back to similar form to where he started, I do think Richmond actually have a chance of not so much just even improving their defense, but like provide more avenues of winning based around their defense.
Yeah.
As so they just didn't have the conversion to where they would have good defense for 3/4 of the game and then just fall in a pile, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of that was frontline issues rather than backline, but that's just how it is. Jumping over to our new faces and just a little bit more on Patrick Rechko.
Did well in the VFL, but couldn't break into a Red Hot Cats team. Like if there's any club that doesn't need an outside runner, it's the Geelong football team. This gut-running speedster should find a nice home in Punt Road as he looks to support Ralph Smith on the wing and aids in their fairly flaky transition football.
Yeah, he's you should hopefully slot in very well. I can't remember if Hugo has fully recovered from his injuries and his full training. I think he is. For what I've seen in the socials.
I've got an injury little right up here. It doesn't mention Ralph Smith, so he should be all right.
That's good. So yeah, hopefully, which is funnily enough, I have not seen any team also mention Hugo in their best 23s, which is also a little bit annoying because when he's in,
this one in the AFL one, there is Hugo Ralph Smith on the wing.
From the I guess the media ones don't mention it because he was injured for most of 2025.
Again, I was just mentioning one of I've seen only one I've really used.
But I mean, yeah, if you put him and Rechko on the wings, I think that kind of works out really well. I assume that's what most people I assume would be expecting in that case. Obviously,
so their starting midfield. Yeah, their starting midfield is Nankervis, Hopper, Taranto, Layla making the inside portion, and then Rechko and Ralph Smith.
Yeah,
with Prestia on the interchange.
Well, yeah, because he's injured.
Interchange. Yeah, and they've got Kane McAuliffe as well as that sort of injection as well.
I keep forgetting we have McAuliffe. I hope he's able to play a lot more this season because he has a lot of upside. He just hasn't had
good games last year. Yeah,
he did.
He's
one of those few players that just keeps slipping my mind.
Yeah. That's probably it for the new faces. There's not really too much to say because it's a bit of an unknown, but as I said, free pump basically. They were only really forced to put a end of the table pick out of politeness because they technically traded for him.
Yeah, this is technically there was this semi risk of him going back into the draft, I guess, but it was fine. All right, let's jump over now to our reasons for optimism.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Richmond have next to zero luck over the last few years, and yet there's a fantastic grit and determination to them that can't be denied. Almost having a better season than the much healthier and experienced North Melbourne. I feel bad for putting that line in after how harsh I was in their preview, but I do think that has to be, stated to where, when you're getting the most out of them, you don't have to have the most talented team on the park. If your system is working enough. And I will say, when I was looking at them, their chains weren't actually too bad, except for the fact that there was no one in the forward line to kick it to. So they just mostly need a bit of polish in the forward line, then an extreme change in personnel. Obviously, they'll be looking to grow a few players,
Hmm.
but I do think that a lot of the players that will make up the core of Richmond are already on the park.
Yeah, I think like 99% of the players that we would have in are in. The one player that I wish we could have back in is Judson Clark. Unfortunately, he did another ACL, so he's out for the entire season again, and I'm very concerned that they're just going to let his contract run out because he's been very, very unlucky injury wise.
Mm.
When the times that we've seen him play, when he wasn't injured, fantastic player. Um, he's probably like the main one that I would love to have in that we just can't. Otherwise, yeah, I think majority of our list is fairly healthy at this point. Um, Knock on wood, of course. Um, but yeah, with less injuries on the board in 2026, they're looking to tidy up the basics and continue to surprise teams who may be underestimating them. I hope Carlton does it again because I would love to beat them again in round one. The forward line having been
Uh,
non-existent in 2025, 2026 looks to be a much better year in terms of structure. Hopefully, it will result in more positive outcomes. Again, give or take Lynch. I'm not too bothered about Lynch at this point. I think this should be his last year. I'm expecting this to also be Prestia's last year. Um, but like with Jonty Fall coming in, Liam Fawcett had one or two games last season, looked okay. We'll probably get some more game time this season. Tom Sims looks fairly solid as well in his debut year. So hopefully he should get some more game time as well. Then we've got McKelty Lafau, the revelation that he was in the 2024 season, prior to just all of the injuries being thrown at us. Was fantastic. So hopefully, like a much more organized front line will give us at least some better display of offensiveness, and hopefully some progression.
yeah, honestly, again, I don't think it's going to improve that much, but if it can get closer to 14th and 18th, then they're doing pretty well.
All right, let's jump over now to our reasons for pessimism.
Yeah, and as I said, despite some of their matches, I will say the only good thing about the Tigers statistically is that they sometimes brought teams to their level of play and beat them in a scrap.
Yep.
Otherwise, their offense prevented any real avenues to win games, and most teams had the confidence that they could just outscore the Tigers after a while. Lack of cohesion, when I say that, of the last couple of years, means it's a hard ask to escape the bottom four again this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a really tough ask to try and to expect more than just staying in the bottom four. Like
Yeah, still the
obviously,
second youngest team in the competition in both age and experience, I should
yep.
say.
Like obviously, all Richmond fans' hopes and dreams are to at least get out of the bottom four. Um, I'd like to see it as well. Whether it'll happen, 15th is we could probably hit 15th. At 15th, 14th, maybe. But again, still got so much to learn as a young team. Whilst we have enough of the veterans, where on-field and off-field leadership will play a huge role in shaping trust and things like that with such a young group. If we can't develop the cohesion to be able to just blind handballs and things like that, really develop
Mm.
like proper movement tactics, and then obviously try to avoid key injuries. But if key injuries happen, that does make it obviously worse. Um, we're trying to avoid 2026 becoming a secondary 2025
Yeah,
or a
exactly.
third
Because as I
2024.
said, well, I think 2024 was like as bad as you could get, and I do think 2025 was like still bad, but I think you could also see the growth. But again, it's whether that growth is going to come with a lot of pain in terms of like a regular season or actually convert to a few more wins.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's yet to be seen. And it's sort of reflected in my overall statement. Um, and I mentioned that this year, against all odds, they avoided the wooden spoon. The season was trying to make them win it. Didn't give them the easiest road. Um, but yeah, they are the most likely, along with West Coast, to win it, from what we can tell in the preseason.
yes.
Improving wins by any amount is the aim. I do think actually 15th is achievable. I do think they could beat three teams out. But anything more than that, I would be surprised personally. I got him as a bottom four lock, but as I said, if Blazy wants to be like a dreamer and say 13th, 14th, I'd let him have that
I'm
range.
I'm being an optimist, but I'm also being a realist in that we're likely going to
Yeah.
stay bottom four. That's the reality of it. Again, the other
Yeah,
teams around
exactly.
us have improved either with just buying players,
Mm.
or like actually getting better skills wise. Buying players obviously refers to St Kilda and then just throwing a ton of money
Yeah.
at a bunch of players. Um, but I can see, like, and we'll talk about West Coast specifically in the next couple of episodes. But like, I can see them having a steady improvement this season.
Yeah.
I obviously North Melbourne, as much as we've been kind of pessimistic on them, I think they'll have a steady improvement as well. Like
Yeah.
everyone is kind of getting better, which one is good for the league because like proper
Yeah.
competition is always good. But it just means, yeah, we're probably going to be stuck in bottom four for a bit.
Yeah, it's just that awkward situation where it's been there've been three teams bottoming them out as bad as you can probably be for 3 years in North West Coast and Richmond, which means that they're sort of in a race against each other to improve, where we can do see the moves, what they're making to improve. But it's not necessarily going to be jumps in ladders. It's going to be like jumps in percentage,
Mm-hmm.
a few more wins here and there, and just overall, just looking looking prettier as a team, running out more games, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, getting more building the tank up with a lot of the younger players
Yeah.
who have the speed but don't just
Mm,
currently have that energy to run out a whole game.
exactly. More four-quarter performances, or at least three and a half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's pretty
I
much what
would
we've got
like
to see.
to at least be able to play or watch them play like a 3.5 quarter game. Like not just three
Yeah.
quarters, not just 2.5. Like at least 3.5 would
Mm,
be nice.
yeah.
Yeah, any final thoughts?
Oh, not really. As I said, I think that it's funny is like, even though like our two teams, like I feel like I'm almost more optimistic about Richmond than I am Port, if
I
that's
I
like,
I think that's because they're kind of on
yeah,
opposite sides of a spectrum. Like
of
Port are
expectations, yeah.
kind of about to they're either going to hit the peak again or they're going to start going back
Hmm.
down, and whereas Richmond are on a steady incline.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much middle for Port, but as I said, yeah, Richmond do have like a range of avenues to where they can improve a little bit, they can improve a lot, and still be on a relatively good trajectory.
Yeah,
So they're a fairly safe team,
the
as long as they don't like go winless.
yeah
Um,
that's
that would be
the
harsh after
only
this
failure.
year.
The only failure that could
Yeah,
happen is if we lose less games than we did in 2025. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, lose more games.
um, yeah, exactly.
But yes,
All right.
that does bring us to the end of the Richmond episode of the preseason analysis series. Thank you all so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, and coming to hang out with us. Next episode is St Kilda, and then I think it's Sydney afterwards. I think we've only got 4 left after this one, four
Yep.
teams left, which is
St Kilda,
very
Sydney, Western Bulldogs, West Coast.
yes, it's really helpful that two of those teams start with an S and the other two teams start with a W. It makes it very easy to remember.
Yep.
So stay
Yes.
tuned for those. We are coming up tomorrow as we're recording this is the State of Origin match between West Coast and Victoria. No, West Coast, Western Australia and Victoria.
West Australia, yeah. West
It's
Coast might not win.
it's close enough. So there might be a bonus episode, just covering our thoughts and opinions on that. It's just a little thing, and we might do a little bit of catch up on news as well, just for all the things that we've missed. We'll try and fit that in sometime during one of the weeks. Who knows? We've got actual preseason games coming up, so we'll see how we go. But until then, thank you all so much, and we will see you all next time. So until then, take care.